She looks like she could still be in middle school, but she's a Gravure idol who internally is like a middle-aged man? Sounds like something straight out of an anime, but even though she's probably making a decent living now, make no mistake, it wasn't easy to get here. Going to be testing the limits of YouTube with this one. In this episode of Otaku Files, we take a very careful look at Nagasawa Marina. Most of us outside of Japan may not be aware of some of the more interesting personalities within the Japanese otaku landscape, so I thought I'd do a little video series and try to shed some light on these individuals. This is Otaku Files. As many into Japanese subculture may be aware of, Japan can be a bit loose compared to other parts of the world in terms of sexual desires and the expression of such. I'm not going to go into specifics, but if you know, you know. Anyway, related to that, there are some things that just seem to work just because it's Japan.
Hi, Marichuu こと Nagasawa Marina です。この度サード DVD マリチュー日和が発売しました。イエーイ!
And with that, let me introduce you to Nagasawa Marina. Affectionately known as Marichuu, the slogan she works under is Gohoro Kyonyu, which we can translate as the big-boobed legal Loli. How on earth did we get here? As I'm sure you figured out, Marichuu is known for having a very young, childlike face, but is in fact a fully grown adult. She is a Gravure idoru. Without going too deep into it, Gravure idolus are essentially like pin-up models, and are considered to be a part of the idol industry in Japan. However, Marichuu really was a part of an idol group, and she's also done a number of other things too. In contrast to all that though, she loves things like beer, ramen, spicy food, and Star Wars, so she's viewed as a cute young idol who internally is like, well, a much older dude. Not only that, she's really into mahjong, something we'll get more into later. Marichuu was born in Tokyo, but her family moved to the city of Kumagaya, located in the prefecture of Saitama, when she was around 6 years old. As a kid, an actual kid, she says she did fairly normal things like hang out with her friends on weekends, play games, and draw pictures. But she also liked to stand out and do things that she felt were different from the other kids, like being a class representative or changing her hairstyle in different ways. She dreamed of being a mangaka and would draw manga then show the results to her friends. However, she felt she wasn't good enough and ended up giving up on that dream. Marichuu started getting interested in the entertainment industry while she was in high school. Around that time, she was also working part-time at a fast food place, and apparently her customer service skills were some of the best because that fast food chain held some annual Saitama tournament, and twice she managed to come in first place, each time for a different category. This wasn't by luck either. Marichuu would work hard and as often as she could there. This is something she also links to wanting to stand out, and feels like this would also connect to the next thing that would happen to her. In her third year of high school, Marichuu would be scouted in Harajuku for an idol group known as Hokago Princessu. Now, this was sort of a coincidence. Being the type that likes standing out, she did in fact want to be a part of the entertainment industry, but didn't explicitly have an interest in being an idol, thinking that maybe she'd be a model for magazines. Through her research though, Marichuu found out a good way for her to get her foot in the door was indeed through being an idol. But she didn't know exactly where to start, and eventually decided to just get some snapshots of herself out in Harajuku. Actually, she ended up getting scouted by a few agencies out there, and one of them was by the manager of Hokago Princessu. Guess it must have been fate. In 2013, Marichuu joined Hokago Princessu not as a full-fledged member though, but as an apprentice, before being moved up to trainee a few months later. Yep, despite being scouted, initially she was placed in the absolute lowest position possible because her dancing and singing skills needed a bit of work. But it wasn't exactly easy doing idol activities in Tokyo, which was 2 hours away by train from Saitama, while still going to school. Hokago Princess's concerts would sometimes end pretty late, meaning she would end up taking the last train home. Marichuu had two younger sisters who were living at their family home, and she didn't have her own room, so she was living by herself in a cheap apartment in Saitama. Even though her rent was about 30,000 yen, she could barely pay it and would often find her electricity, gas and/or water being stopped. So Marichuu would also work part-time at the Kon cafe that was being operated by her agency. Luckily, a lot of her fans would come to the cafe to order something, which helped her survive. Marichuu was determined though, and even decided not to go on to higher education, completely sticking with the idol path. One thing that helped her though was her assets, because in 2014 she would make her Gravure debut with a Gravure DVD. Interestingly, Marichuu herself was into Gravure, saying she really liked cute girls, which is probably why she had no resistance to doing it. With her particular kind of look, she would definitely stand out from the other Gravure idols, that's for sure. But unfortunately, a year after joining, at the time Marichuu was trying to be a fully fledged member of Hokago Princess, she would be demoted and then fired from the group entirely. What exactly happened? Well, around a month after her Gravure debut, her secret Twitter account was discovered. This was actually a violation of the group's rules. On top of that, even though she had apologized for the account, Marichuu was then absent for the group's concert a day or so later. Oh dear. However, interestingly, she was given a chance to redeem herself by working as a staff member for the group's concerts, and once she had regained the management's trust, could then take an audition to try and get back into the group. I'm assuming she was being paid. I hope she was anyway. Anyway, it seems she didn't need to wait that long though, because half a year later she was back in as an apprentice, before being moved into the trainee group called Hokago Princess Yusu after passing another audition. Now, Marichuu believed that she had to do something to make up for the time she spent out of the group. So she decided to apply for the Miss ID 2016. I've talked about the Miss ID competition in my ZOC videos if you'd like to know more about it. Apparently Marichuu knew about Miss ID because one of the selection committee members was a producer in her agency. For her Miss ID PR video, she combined two things: her passion for customer service and her Gravure skills. According to Marichuu, the filming crew didn't expect her to undress and do her customer service bit in a bikini, which garnered some interesting reactions. Anyway, the video was a massive hit, and apparently out of all the other PR videos, had racked up the most amount of views. What's interesting is that this video also caught some international attention too, in particular, Russia. Apparently this was because a Russian actor had discovered her PR video and decided to talk about it, drawing in some Russian attention. Marichuu was chosen as one of the winners for Miss ID 2016, and thanks to this, she got a lot more work as a Gravure idol. Later on in August 2016, it would also be announced that Marichuu was made into a full-fledged member of Hokago Princess. However, Marichuu started to feel that maybe she wasn't really suited to being an idol, that maybe she had reached her limit since she felt her singing and dancing skills didn't improve by much. With her winning Miss ID and getting more and more Gravure related jobs, she felt it was time to move on from Hokago Princess and decided to leave in December of that same year. But December would also see a new path for Marichuu open up. Why? Because she would star in the live adaptation of the manga series Saki, which is about a high school girl named Saki that finds herself in the competitive world of Japanese mahjong. Marichuu would play Seno Kaori. Now, when Marichuu took the audition, she actually knew nothing about mahjong. But little did she probably know that thanks to starring in Saki, that later Marichuu would start getting a lot of mahjong related work. After she quit the agency though, she actually decided to take a break from showbiz and go back to basics, working at her fast food chain again. Because she was a bit famous by this point, she would often find customers asking her for an autograph. Marichuu would eventually join a new agency thanks to a special person. Shiina Hikari. Yes, the one and only. I actually have a video on her too for those that wish to know more about her. Apparently they got to know each other because they both appeared in the same fashion magazine. It was not soon after that Marichuu would be invited to take part in the mahjong competitive TV show Toppame Tottande. Among the mahjong related jobs Marichuu would start getting would be assistant for the mahjong tournament Mahjong Saikyo-sen. Like I mentioned before, she was pretty much a novice, but around this time she started to get serious about playing. But it was a real struggle for her in the beginning. They apparently even made a corner for her within Mahjong Saikyo-sen where competitors could play against her, but she didn't fare too well. Marichuu even received some harsh comments, with some even wondering if she liked mahjong at all. She was so frustrated with herself that she even shed tears. But determined to show that she was serious, from 2020 she decided to study to take the test to be a certified pro mahjong player. And in January of 2021, she managed to pass and is now a certified pro mahjong player. Marichuu's journey has been one with some real ups and downs, but through sheer determination, she managed to carve herself out a pretty unique path in life. By the way, Marichuu also has a YouTube channel if you'd like to check that out, link in the description box below. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you as always for watching. Really didn't know what to expect from this one. I was kind of afraid, to be honest, but it turned out to be a pretty interesting story. I don't play Mahjong myself, but I'm glad that Marichuu is doing well, and this definitely seems to be something she can do even if she ever decides to retire from Gravure. Anyway, thank you again for watching. Let me know what else you'd like me to cover. Stay safe, be happy, later. Peace.